Hey guys, what's up? Sandu here, back with another video. Today I have a super excited product from FiiO called Q5S. Basically the flagship DAC and headphone amp combo. Let's check it out together and see what's inside the package first. The box is fairly small but thick and feels premium to me. It is basically the same box FiiO is using for the upper class equipment. Let's take it out and see what's inside. So we have a little bit of paperwork, small instructions. And here is the device itself. Let's take it out. Really beautiful looking, I think. Of course it resembles a lot the older Q5 that you already know. So checking all the accessories inside the package, as you can see it comes with a really nice textile carry case with the FiiO logo. And inside you have lots and lots and lots of accessories, as you can see, lots of them. You have 4 rubber rings to attach it to another mobile device or a DAP. You have a screwdriver in case you want to change the modules, the amp modules of the Q5S. You also have 4 additional screws in case you lose the ones on the AM3 amp module. Okay. You also have a silicone spacer that you can put between Q5 and your mobile phone, for example, to avoid wear and tear. You also have a 3.5mm to optical adapter. You have a 3.5mm to coaxial adapter. You have a micro USB to Lightning, Apple Lightning adapter cable. You have a mini to mini cable, and you have a USB Type A to USB to micro USB cable, of course, and lots of paperwork inside. Of course, warranty card, quick start guide, and this is basically everything you can find inside the package. I think this is quite an amazing accessory pack. Hats off to FiiO for putting all those together and not selling them separately. I think this is really cool. There is just one type of cable that is missing from the package, but can be purchased separately. That is a micro USB to micro USB cable or a micro USB to USB Type-C adapter cable to connect Q5S to an Android device. But don't worry, as Amazon and eBay are full of this kind of cables. Q5S looks very much like the older Q5, but of course has few notable changes. So gone is the second micro USB port that was found on the right side of Q5. It made really no sense, it was used only for charging. And the main micro USB port was charging unit as well. The very small LED on the right side of Q5 was replaced with 4 smaller LEDs that will indicate the selected input. So apart from the LED color, this one LED color will indicate the bitrate is being played. So all in all, I think Q5S brought some nice quality of life improvements compared to the older Q5. Of course, the combination of anodized and sandblasted with zirconium aluminum looks amazingly good, I think. Zirconium gave this titanium look that you see and actually will absorb accidental drops and scratches. There are also other small details that were improved. For example, the high-resolution audio and high-resolution audio wireless sticker was dropped and exchanged with these laser engraved ones. I think this is a really nice touch. There are 2 things that I'm not really digging. The first one is the USB, the micro USB port. I mean, seriously guys, 2020 is around the corner and we are still using very old tech. I think this port needs to go, and as USB Type-C is basically the future of smart devices. And the second thing that I don't like is the edges of the device, all the edges around this device. These are basically raw aluminum edges, so meaning no anodizing and no sandblasting for the edges, so those are softer and much easier to scratch. So be careful about the edges of your Q5S. Now checking out the buttons and the layout. As you can see, Q5S is covered with buttons and ports, buttons and LEDs, but most of them are just set and forget or are very easy to remember what are they doing. So on top you have two headphone ports. One is the clean line out, this one, and the second one is the line in, also the coaxial input and the optical input. You have a simple low and high gain setting, and you have a on-off bass switch. And now moving on to the left side, as you can see, it has 3 buttons that will work only in wireless mode. That's important. So you have your play pause button, also pairing button also if you long press, and of course the next and previous buttons. The right side carries only the volume wheel. It also works as an on-off switch, and also the input selector you see right here. So this is will toggle between 4 inputs, and the LEDs underneath it will show which input was selected and the battery level of the Q5S. The bottom part that you see right here is where the amp module is located. So this is the stock one, the stock AM3E module. That actually is a very good and quite advanced module. So I really love its output selection. As you can see, it offers a single-ended normal headphone jack and 2 balanced headphone outs in 2.5mm and 4.4mm Pentacon. This is quite an amazing headphone connectivity, I think. Okay guys, so first you need to know that FiiO replaced the legendary but already old AK4490 DAC chips with higher performance and newer AK4493 DAC chips, 2 of them, so which FiiO is also using in their top performing M11 DAP for its super low distortion and very high signal to noise ratio. You need to know that Q5S is using the most advanced Bluetooth chip from Qualcomm. That one has the widest Bluetooth codec support, also supports the Bluetooth 5.0 for the most stable Bluetooth signal and a wider range of operation. Q5S is also supporting everything from the regular SBC, AAC to the most advanced ones like the aptX, aptX HD, aptX low latency and LDAC. So when it comes to Bluetooth capabilities, this is the most advanced one. When it comes to raw power, the included amp module, the AM3E, it's offering up to 210 mW of power into 32 ohms on the single-ended output, the normal headphone out, and an amazing 560 mW of power into 32 ohms on both balanced headphone outs. So I think this is a very impressive number for a portable device. As was the case with Q1 Mark II and the older Q5, Q5S is also MFI certified, so it is made for iPhone certified. It means that it works excellent with iOS devices, both via the micro USB to Lightning cable found in the package and via Bluetooth, of course, using the FiiO app you can find on the App Store. Of course, Q5S will also work with Android devices, but no one will tell you which one exactly will work just fine with it. Even FiiO can tell you that. It's impossible basically testing the compatibility of hundreds and hundreds of Android devices, but from our tests it worked perfectly with all devices that had USB Type-C and the ones that are supporting OTG audio out. Okay guys, moving on to the sound performance, I will first start with the wireless performance of Q5S. So my Android smartphone is Bluetooth 5.0 enabled and also LDAC compatible. Together with the Q5S in the other pocket, they worked like a charm together. So I was not surprised to hear a quite clean signal, so without any obvious flaws, I think. Bluetooth signal never dropped a bit in my 2-hour walk outside the house. Unsurprisingly, with a pair of Master and Dynamic MW65 wired to the Q5S, the sound was extremely powerful, so it was quite angry even with a quite speedy and articulated presentation. Everything sounded as I remembered the MW65 on the big rig on my home desktop setup, so it was quite punchy, quite imposing and very engaging. What was really surprising and quite interesting is that the sound quality of LDAC was as good as directly from Q5S connected to my desktop PC. So a simple 60-bit lossless file, I mean 44 kHz lossless file, sounded basically the same wirelessly via LDAC and wired to my desktop computer. So on higher quality headphones like Quad Era 1 headphones, the same story repeats itself. basically a close to zero difference between wireless and wired. But moving upwards to some high resolution files like 32-bit PCMe files, there was a small difference, not a big one, but it was quite noticeable. So wired, I think Q5S sounded a little bit smoother. The notes sounded like bonded to each other. But going wireless, Q5S on the same 32-bit PCMe files sounded not as smooth, of course, and not as biting, I think, especially in the treble region. I also felt a small drop in the perceived detail retrieval of the music I was listening. Nonetheless, wireless or not, Q5S sounded great from the moment I pressed that play button. Okay guys, moving on to the wired performance of Q5S, I will continue my final assessment of Q5S sound quality, using it attached to my desktop PC and listening, of course, to some high resolution lossless files. I was very surprised that it can properly drive a pair of Quad Era 1 headphones, those are planar magnetic headphones, on the single-ended output, so on the normal 3.5mm jack, at about 80% volume and upwards than that. Now please take into consideration that on the balanced out it will offer double the power, so I will have even a higher headroom and even a better driver control. So regular headphones like my Sennheiser Momentum 2 or the Master and Dynamic MW65 were driven with on the low gain at about half volume, so high gain was already too much for them. So in terms of power, I think I'm really surprised how much this small and portable Q5S can offer. For pure madness and for giggles, I decided to power the power-hungry hi-fi main area that you see right here. Again on the single-ended output, so on the normal headphone jack with some loud rock tunes. I was able to tap my feet, I was able to headbang a bit with a stupid smile on my face. So I was smiling not because the driver control was there or that the bass was not playing the fart cannon game. That actually never occurred on the Q5S. I was smiling because this little fellow could actually drive the hi-fi main area, and if I could listen to this setup with my closed eyes, I could swear that I'm listening to a desktop and a wall-powered setup. So even on the single-ended output with the stock AM3 amp module, Q5S was more than capable of driving really heavy loads like these headphones you see right here. So that was really unexpected. All my desktop headphones are wired with a 4-pin XLR connector, so unfortunately I was unable to test the 2.5 and 4.4 Pentacon connectors with my bigger cans. But sensitive IEMs came to the rescue, as my FiiO FA7 are wired with a 2.5mm cable, and I also have a 4.4mm balanced cable, so I could test the Q5S on the balanced out. And first and foremost, I want to tell you that Q5S with the FA7 and basically with any IEM I tested doesn't have any noise floor whatsoever. So to me, I think Q5 sounded really clean, free of any audiophile bugs, so background was noiseless. Any hiss you'll hear will basically come from your recordings and not from the headphone amp of Q5S. Add a super low 1.2 ohm output on the single-ended out and 2 ohm output on the balanced out, and you could drive even 60 ohm earphones without sacrificing any of the damping factor of the amplifier. What was really astonishing from the first moment I pressed the play button was the size of the soundstage and the pinpoint imaging of the Q5S. So majority of AKM designs are basically sounding quite open and quite widespread, but dual AKM designs are completely different animals. So on very few tracks the left to right passages sounded almost disjointed at times and as different entities, I think. So there is just a bigger space between both channels, between left and right channel, and I have just a longer time discerning and digesting all that information. So in terms of soundstage size, I think Q5S is playing with the best portable devices on the market you have right now. It has the same and even bigger soundstage than that of the M11 DAP, and that, my friends, says a lot. When it comes to frequency response, I do feel that Q5S puts most of its attitude in the bass and in the mid-range, area, but of course will tickle your ears even with subsonic treble regions. Now again, remember this is AKM based design, so no harshness, no edgy treble whatsoever, nowhere to be found, and basically Q5S is free of that shit. There is a mild change compared to the older Q5 and even to the M11 DAP, so I do feel that sub-bass performance is better on the newest Q5S. There was just a small drop on the older devices, a mild one, not a big one, but I do feel that Q5S rumbles a little bit harder and without engaging the bass switch. That's important. I do feel that Q5S presents the sub-bass in a very linear and very straight manner without any drops in this region. So any bass heavy track I would put on would instantly rise my engagement level and my mood level as well. Going on into the mid-bass and mid-range area, I think these are two of the best parts of Q5S. There is just nothing to complain about in this area, so I think the bass is always full sounding and quite developing sounding without being overdone or muddy. I think just right sounding. I spotted layers of it, so I spotted it breathing and I spotted it moving quickly around. I think it comes fast, I think it kicks you really hard and it runs away as quick as it came. So I think the mid-range is quite smooth sounding and lifelike most of the time. Voices are also quite deep sounding and also soul reaching on the right tracks. So this is basically a technical and a musical mid-range performance in the single box. So this is my kind of performance. So moving on into the treble region, I think it is not like a chameleon sounding like I've heard on the K5 Pro, and basically sends a very clear message from the start. Yes, it is smooth sounding, yes it is easygoing, yet it is very extended, very much so in the upper region. So it has sparkle, but not a lot of it. So I know personally few people that feel that treble should always be bright, be sparkly and very present, but I am quite of a different opinion. So I think the treble has definition, it has texture, it sounds clean, it sounds quite detailed. However, it doesn't scream around and basically doesn't attract a lot of attention to it. So it is not sharp sounding, it is not bright or emphasized sounding. If you are looking for this kind of performance, I think your search will continue, as Q5S is not that kind of device. Okay guys, so probably the most impressive aspect of Q5S is how authentic it sounds. So it resembles a lot a desktop unit more than a portable device. So if I'm raising the volume up, the dynamics will rise as well. Even at maximum volume, I think it never clips and it never distorts, and I really like that. Okay guys, I think it's comparison time and I have a small surprise for you. Ta-da! This is the former Q5, the older one. So here comes my comparison. So from the first beats, it was very clear to me that Q5S, the newest one, has more power under its belt. So I needed to raise the volume for about 10% to have the same sound pressure level. But once I volume matched both using a very sensitive microphone inside the mini DSP ears, I resumed my listening session with the same volume on both devices. So I think both are sounding very alike, so and of course indeed have a lot in common. Nonetheless, I think older Q5 is not that authentic sounding, so it is a little bit shy sounding in terms of dynamics. So listening to some symphonic metal of Epica revealed that Q5 is not as engaging sounding and is a little bit limited in terms of dynamics. So I think Q5, the older one, sounds like a transition from a portable to a desktop device, and by comparison Q5S is sounding like a grown-up desktop device. So listening to the high caliber recordings of Chesky or reference recordings revealed an additional layer of air around the notes on the newest Q5S, and also an additional layer of information. Especially small nuances were easier to spot on the newer devices, I think. Now in terms of frequency response, I think both are very alike again, but Q5 on some records will bite a little bit more in the treble area. So I don't think it is more detailed in the treble area, it just attracts a little bit more attention to it. So as a result, I think Q5S, I mean the newest one, is sounding like a complete linear experience, so very like a straight line. And the Q5 is having really a small emphasis up top in the treble area. Now going on into the conclusion, I really think that Q5S deserves the flagship status in the FiiO's DAC and headphone amp line of products, and that $350 I think you can't go wrong with it. I think it is even better sounding than some other products. Chord Mojo. Okay guys, I really hope you enjoyed my review. My full in-depth review can be read at my website, there is a link below. Please listen to my music, be positive, and I'll see you next time. Cheers guys, bye bye.